Hey, how's it going? Jason here. In this video, we're going to be working on this tree that we're starting from scratch, this Prostrata juniper right here. So if you guys remember from our last video, we chose from two trees, a San Jose juniper and a Prostrata, and I decided to work on this one first. We actually will work on the other one, but we'll work on this one first, and we'll see what we can do with material really from scratch. So I got the tree right here. I'm going to take it out of the can and we're going to see what we can do with it. So I have not done anything with this tree. Basically, it's been left to grow in this can, and it's a pretty old tree. You can tell by the trunk size right there. It's a pretty old tree, but it's just kind of been left to grow, and as you can tell, the branches are everywhere. I've got some thin ones in here. I've got some thick ones over here. I've got a whole bunch going from the top, and that's typically what happens with these landscape junipers, is that you're going to get a lot of growth from the top. And what you've got to do is figure out which one to use, which primary branch to go with, which ones to get rid of, and that's what we're going to do today. All right, so when you're approaching raw material from scratch, the first thing you want to do is make sure you get your tools. What you're going to need is a good shear, something like this right here, a good shear, and then you're going to need a branch cutter, typically, preferably a heavy branch cutter like this one right here, because you will be cutting a lot of heavy branches. This is what I like to call the repair process of the trees when you're approaching raw material. Choosing the branches you want to keep, getting rid of the ones you don't want, and then starting to build a structure based on those. So hopefully you guys have a tree that you found on your own and you guys can follow along. Just prop your tree up on a table and then we'll just approach this step by step. Okay, the first thing you want to do is identify the front that you think you want to go with. Now at this point right now, you don't want to be thinking about where the branches are, because when you're starting from scratch, what you're trying to do is promote growth, or at least encourage growth along the trunk, and hopefully show up in the places that you want it. So in this case, I'm going to look at the front right here. I've got some really nice, on this side, I've got really nice movement right there. Got this huge branch that's in the way, but the movement on the tree right here is very nice. So what you can do is you can get rid of some of those branches just to see it clearer. And at this point in the process, you know that these ones out here are going to be way too far out. You can clear out some of them. You don't have to cut them all off, but you clear out some just to give yourself some space. Those ones are really far out there. I know that I'm not going to need them. We'll clean out some of the ones going down. And when you're doing this process right here, I'm not really thinking about how I'm going to set these up as pad layers. I'm not thinking about that yet. I'm not thinking about that at all, actually. What I'm thinking about is which branches am I going to cut and which ones I'm going to use. None of this is actually going to have any detail wiring on it at this point. This is all just being set up for the future growth of the tree. The whole point is to clear out the stuff we don't need so that the light can penetrate through to the tree and start to grow, especially in the spring. Keep on clearing out some of these going down. I know some of these are too big. Okay, try to find the main branches that are on the tree right now. Okay. And that's really the only goal. You're not really worried about first branch, second branch, all that yet. Right now, we're just trying to clear out some of this dead growth and just try to get through so that the tree looks a little bit better and that we actually want to put our hands in there to mess with it. And a small growth like this, if you see some on the trunk already, at this stage, especially in the raw material stage, just the setting up phase, don't cut those yet, because those might be exactly what we're looking for in order to grow branches in those spots. And actually, I'm looking at those two buds right there and this one over here. That's actually in a good spot already. So you gotta make sure, at least at this stage in the design, that you don't cut those off yet. But the leggier growth around it, that's pretty ugly, that's okay. So here I've got some interesting movement here, right there, right there. I've got some interesting movement. It kind of ends up leaning back though. So it kind of comes up around like this and then leans back. So I'm going to actually choose this side. I actually prefer this side right here. On this side, so let me get rid of some of the dead stuff. And the dead stuff here is just because the sun's not getting to these sections, so those branches are going to just turn yellow and die off. So that's absolutely normal. I know I'm going to use that side as the front right here, and I know that this one is gone because this is coming straight off the front. So what you can do is cut it off slowly. You can go like that. I'm going to cut this. And then just kind of get that closer in there. You know, this is why I'm using the big branch cutter, because that will take care of that in an instant. And then I can go in here later with the knob cutter just to get that a little bit cut in so that it'll heal really nicely. So now you can see that front a lot better. It's a lot clearer. So just remember, at this stage of the development and the design, it's really preliminary. All we're trying to do is get rid of unnecessary branches. So don't get hung up on, oh, okay, I've got these branches here. Can I style them now and make them look really good? I mean, if they were healthier, then yes, I think I probably would. But the thing is that since this tree is all on the top, and that's typically what happens with these landscape trees, is you're gonna have all this growth on the top. So all this section here is gonna get shaded. So all these branches here are going to remain brittle, dry, and really unhealthy. So there's not really any point in trying to make something great from those unless, the tree's not in bad shape. But if it's kind of already not too nice, then just get rid of it and just develop new ones. Wait until there's new ones that are better there and use those instead. That'll actually make it a lot easier as the seasons progress, as spring rolls around. You'll be able to actually style those and create paths from those sections. So if I was to use this branch as a first branch, I've got 3 coming off in there. I've got 1, 2, 3. I really only need 1. So first, let's just tackle that. Let's get rid of the 1. Now the other downside to this, I got the thickest branch right there. Now I've got one on the back too, and I really only need 1. So that's gone too. Okay, so now I've only got 1. Now the downside to that, to this branch right here, so if I look at the front, even if I pull it forward, it's not going with the movement of the tree. As you can see, the tree's going this way, and this one just shoots it off that way. It's also too low. So if my height of the tree, typically you want to be a third of the way up. At least on a textbook tree, you want to 1/3 of the way up. But as you can see right here, it's just way too low. Now the good thing about having those branches, the 3 right there, is that it's going to thicken up this base a lot faster. But in this case, I'm not gonna worry about that too much. I already cut off the 2. Maybe I'll save part of this one for now just so this continues to grow thicker right here. What I really have to do is look higher on the tree to see which branches I can use to fill in a space over here, to fill in some spaces here. Maybe I've got this one, which might be able to come back a little bit. This one's not dead. Could be healthier, so maybe some light will fix that. I don't want to cut that off, so maybe this one could come over here. Maybe this one right here. I need something right in this area right there. So really, when you're looking at preparing a tree, especially when at this stage, there's going to be a lot of cuts that we have to do. So now we're going to go in here, tilt this up to what I think is going to be a good angle, right around there, where I can see the movement really nice, and then we're going to start cutting a lot of this on the top. Okay, now I'm going to have a little bit of a disclaimer here. If I was using this for a demonstration, there's certain branches that I would use to pull down so I can have a really nice tree by the end of this. But that's not what we're trying to do. In this video, we're trying to create just a textbook tree. We're trying to create a tree that just has the basic components to it, the left, right, back branch, second branch, just the general structure right there. So a lot of this is actually going to disappear. Now, if I was going to do this tree from scratch for a demonstration, maybe I would tilt this down. So maybe I tilt it down like this, maybe style the whole tree right here and do some type of semi-cascade. But that's not the goal I'm trying to do on this tree. What I'm trying to do is create some type of general structure here. So I'm going to cut a lot of branches in this tree. And this is sort of what happened in that original textbook tree, is that we started off with a single branch. We were actually luckier in that case, but because we had a good branch to start off with. In fact, we wired that one. That was that first wiring video that we did. It was there, but in this case, it's just not here. So we've got this one right here that maybe we can use, but it's really too low. But really, we have to work on something. Maybe develop this one right here. We're going to need something else on this tree to make it look nice. But the first thing I got to do is I've got to cut off this branch, this huge branch right here. That's coming straight off from to the front, and that's going to eliminate the majority of this tree. Even if I tilt it up like this, as drastic as I can, this one is coming way too straight forward. So I've got to cut it off so that I can get some more potential in the future. So we cut off this branch that was in the front. You can see the cut right there. I still got to clean that up. But now you can see the movement in the tree. It goes up like this, comes back around. We can actually bring it back in if we want. Maybe use this one right here and bring that back in, which is probably exactly what we're going to do. But as you can see, this cut's pretty ugly, and this branch is still attached to it. So this one is nice because it could go right here. But the problem is that it's actually attached to the tree right there. So it's attached to this nub right here, which I really don't like, and I don't want that to be there. The future of the tree, even if we shave it down, if I cut some of it right now, shave it down, that's still going to be there, so that's got to go. Okay. I'll put some paste on this, shave this down a little bit. And this one keeps hitting my head, so I know I'm not going to need all that, so I'll shorten that a little bit. Okay, I'll put some paste on that later. So now you can see the movement a lot better, right? Now we've got a few more branches that are too thick, like this one right here is way too thick in comparison to all these. So we've got to get rid of it. Now, what's the reasoning behind that, this thick branch right here? So you're probably thinking, I don't have any branches, I should save this. But if we're waiting for new growth to come out here on the lower part of the tree, right here on the trunk, those branches right there will be growing slower, or at least starting younger than the one right here. So that's going to cause this branch to be not in proportion to the other, so I've got to get rid of that one. So now I can start with branches that are proportional to each other and they're growing at the same rate. Same goes for this one at the back right here. This one right here. This one's the same issue. These ones are way too thin compared to that one, so I've got to get rid of that one as well. Now I'm ignoring gins on this example. What we're trying to do is create just a left-right back branch structure on this tree. So I'm just doing a traditional design on this. So now if I get branches, so this one right here is staying on here just to thicken the trunk right here. And now I'm really looking at this. I'm looking at these buds right here, maybe this one right here, maybe this one right here. I'm looking at branches that will develop in the future that will turn this tree into something. Now I've got some interesting stuff here. I can bend this back in if I want, but I've got a really nice branch right here as my apex right there. This one right there. So if I were to tilt this up, I'm starting to get some movement in the tree. Now I'm starting to get some type of movement here. So you gotta ignore this branch right here. This branch right here is really just a sacrifice branch. The design is actually all in this section right here. Now the problem is that this one is coming up too tall, so I'm hoping that my first branch will be somewhere around here. So we got 1, 2, 3, the height of it's could be somewhere around here. So this branch right here is actually not needed. Let me cut that back. Okay, and I'm gonna go with this guy as my apex. I'll get rid of some of the ones going down. Now, there you go. You can start to see that textbook tree start to form, or that general, really basic S shape kind of goes like this, and this one comes around. Maybe I'll put some wire on this one so it grows exactly how I want it, so it comes back around this way. Shave this one down a little bit just to get that smooth. And you don't want to go too far because you don't want to die back and kill off your apex. So just go a little bit. Leave a little bit there so it doesn't kill off the apex. So we're going to come back like this. Okay, flip it around right there, like that, just to get it going. Just go like that. And then I've got a nice basic movement with no branches, basically. I've got all this stuff right here. Most of it's unhealthy, but this is very healthy, so we're okay. Another thing I'm going to keep in mind, though, so on the back side of this tree, I'm going to put this down again. On the back side of this tree, I've got this long branch right here. Now, what you don't want to do when you're doing some serious cuts like this is eliminate every branch on the top. You don't want to basically completely get rid of all the foliage. You need some of that foliage to draw the energy up to the top of the tree so it develops all inside here. So what you can do with this one is, this one right here, that one is very thick compared to all these other branches. So I know that eventually I'm going to have to remove this one. But for now, I'm going to shorten it and use it basically just to draw energy toward the top of the tree. So I've got these two heads right here, these two apexes. Really, I'm using this one right here, but I'm using both of these branches to draw energy up the trunk so that we can get these little buds developed, these ones right here, and maybe new ones. Now that the sun is hitting in right here, we'll get new ones in here to grow as well. So now I'm going to clean up just a little bit. You know, I got all these ugly knobs. I'm going to try to smooth this out. Now, you can do this one on your own time. If you've got a tree that you're working on, you know, hopefully you've been able to make some of those cuts, some of those big cuts, and feel confident about it. But really, this tree is still a few seasons out from being nice, so we've got to just be patient with it. And what you can do here as well is, if you know a branch is coming off to the front, you can get rid of it. Just be choosy on it. You can start being choosy. But leave some of it. You know, you don't want to get rid of all these. Most likely they're going to get replaced. See how they have a bud right here, this one? I don't know if you can see it, but right here, I've got one little bud that's really healthy compared to this whole thing. Most likely that's going to replace this entire branch. And that would go for the rest of them as well. We don't know what's going to develop. If we feed this tree, we keep it healthy, it's probably will come out really strong, and we'll find out in the spring. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wire this one really quick just to make sure I get that nice S shape, and then we'll be done. All right, so you guys are used to seeing me wire an entire tree, but for this case, all I gotta do is wire this one branch. All right, so we're pretty much wrapped up summarize what we did with this tree is, the first thing we did was identify the front on the tree. We ignored all the branches because in this step, starting from scratch from raw material, we're really not thinking about the branches yet. We're thinking about the front of the tree and what we want to develop as the front of the tree. So I've ignored all the other stuff. I've left this on here as a sacrifice branch just to thicken the trunk while we wait for new growth to come. But if this starts to take over the growth and all of it goes this way, I'm going to decrease this in the spring so that it comes back over here so I can get things to develop in this area. Now we got rid of some branches, a huge branch, one that was coming straight off to the front, that was an eye poker, and then another one was basically this whole thing. That was the majority of the tree. We got rid of that. And the reason we had to get rid of that was because it was coming back toward us, and no matter how much we did to lean it up, that branch would have been too difficult to bend on its own, but especially with such a short segment to bend, it wouldn't have been possible to do that. But we didn't need to because we had this part right here that basically comes up and creates the S right there. So we got rid of that just with the saw, and I'm going to put some cut paste on that to make that heal a little bit better. And then hopefully when the foliage comes in, it'll actually hide all that as well. And then after that, we just pick and chose some branches here. I don't think I'm going to need this one right here, but I'm just going to leave it on for now. I've left all these alone just so that the sun can hit this area and develop those branches right there. I decided to use this single branch coming off the top here as the apex. Originally it was a side branch. I had a longer one that was coming out this way, but that one wasn't necessary. It was actually start to reverse taper anyway, so we'll do this one as the apex, let this just grow out to match the thickness of that trunk right there. And eventually that will come seamlessly and work really nice together. I kept two big branches at the top, this one and this one. And the reason I did that was just to keep on drawing energy toward the top of the tree so that we could develop these branches like these little buds right here. They're very important right now. So we can develop those, which will eventually become side branches for this tree. So at this point, all I've got to do is play the waiting game. With raw material like this, which hasn't been touched, you've got to do big cuts. This is probably the biggest one that a lot of you guys will have difficulty with making that decision. It was a huge part of that tree. Yes, you could have used that differently if we decided to do a different front or a completely different design. But for this tree, we're doing just normal, regular S-shaped movement, just a regular movement. So I had to remove that so I could expose this part, which is really nice right here. Now just keep in mind, as you're doing this, your tree is not going to look fantastic when you're done. It's going to look like it's bare, it's going to look like it's sparse, and that's the point, is that you've gotten rid of all the branches you don't need. Now all you've got to do is wait for the ones that are going to show up and keep the ones that you want. So at this point, I'm going to put this back in the can and just let this grow. In spring, I'm going to feed it. Usually I don't feed it that much in the winter, but back when spring, right before spring starts, late winter, I'm going to start feeding it again. That's when I'm going to see all this come out, and that's when you'll have a nice update on this tree. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.